Hello, Matthew Zeitler. Today I'm going to be talking about psychology in Fight Club. So, who is the narrator? The narrator, he has no name. He's just an unnamed corporate worker struggling with severe insomnia and emotional detachment. He feels very disconnected from others and dissatisfied with his repetitive consumer-driven lifestyle. So, he's basically tired of the life that he's living. And this kind of drives him to cope in a way by making an alternate personality inside of his brain. And this personality, it actually embodies kind of the things that he wants to be. So if he wants to be rebellious, confident, things like that. But he can't be because his lifestyle restricts him from doing that. So he creates this alternate ego that does those things for him. So setting in cultural context, the film is set in the late 1990s, time marked by lots of consumerism, lots of corporate burnout, and male identity confusion as well. Masculine norms do encourage emotional suppression, self-reliance, which kind of discourages the help seeking and getting any sort of help for these diseases that certain people have. And this cultural environment contributes to the narrator's psychological fragmentation, and it shapes how his own symptoms develop. So throughout the movie, he actually gets worse over time, and this can also be attributed to his lack of one, social recognition, and two, his lack to go get treatment. So dissociative identity disorder, or DSM, according to the DSM-5, it's characterized by two or more distinct identity states with different patterns of thinking and behaving. Individuals often experience lots of memory gaps from day-to-day events. These events are also often performed by their alters. That's why they don't remember it. And symptoms cause distress or impairment and cannot be explained by substances or cultural rituals. So basically, no drugs, no cultures can really describe what's going on. It actually all has to come from the mind. And this definitely does match how the narrator performs and acts throughout the film. So, cultural influence on diagnosis in the late 1990s, DID was very misunderstood, often mistaken for psychosis or extreme stress. And the cultural expectation for men to remain stoic uh, basically made it impossible for most people to seek help and made it extremely unlikely for the narrator himself to ever go and seek help. And oftentimes, as well, therapists back then, they weren't very familiar with DID. There wasn't a whole lot of research on it. So, it would most likely be diagnosed as something like insomnia or depression before actually being recognized as what it was. But that being said, looking overall at the narrator from this film, DID is definitely the most accurate diagnosis. So, cultural diagnosis and stigma. So, DID appears across many cultures throughout the world. Symptoms can be interpreted differently, like spiritual possession and things like that. But trauma and dissociation definitely do occur worldwide, and they're not by any way culturally bound. Uh, and specifically in Western culture, DID is heavily stigmatized, often seen as exaggerated, dangerous, or fake. This will discourage individuals from ever seeking treatment and also contribute to misdiagnosis. Distinct identity states. So this is going to be one of the first key symptoms. So Tyler functions as his own separate identity with distinct behavior, speech, and motivation. The narrator matches all of the DSM-5 descriptions of the identity disruption and multiple personality states. Another thing is that other characters interact with Tyler as if he were a separate person. So further symptoms like memory gaps and amnesia, the narrator often would just wake up in random places. He wouldn't even know what was going on, didn't know how he got there, random cuts, bruises, missing all the money in his pocket, things like that, plane tickets even. And that's when the alter ego took over and kind of blacked out whatever he was thinking. They don't know what's going on when this alter ego takes over. And these significant memory gaps align with the DSM-5's criteria for dissociative amnesia, which also often goes with DID itself. So some of the missing and weak symptoms, though, are there was never really any sort of presented childhood trauma, which is extremely common in most DID cases. The narrator's split is really just portrayed by like the stress of being an adult and conforming to social normities, rather than actually early repeated trauma, which is what most of these cases you see. And this omniscience really kind of makes the portrayal less clinically accurate, but overall it displays most symptoms pretty accurately. So the treatment plan is just going to be a phase-oriented trauma-focused psychotherapy. So first stage, it's going to focus on stabilizing the effects of the dissociation. Pretty simple. And then the second phase is going to actually involve processing these traumas that cause most of these dissociative disorders. And then the third step aims to integrate the two personalities so they can function as one instead of kind of constantly fighting with each other and causing issues for everyone, including the patient themselves. So this treatment is clinically proven. It's research, supported by research. Phase-oriented therapy is one of the most long-term effective treatments for DID. Treatment reduces dissociation, emotional instability, and crisis behaviors. But there are some ethical concerns that come with this. So managing patient and public safety, making sure that the alter ego is not really planning any sort of like malicious intents, kind of like what Tyler does in this film. And then avoiding suggestive memory techniques. You don't want to give them any sort of ideas or make them think something happened that actually didn't. That can also fuel the alter ego. And then respecting all the identity states throughout the therapy. So even though, I'm my own person and I have this alter ego, the therapist is going to have to respect us as two different people, even though technically we are one. So barriers to treatment are often going to include things like cultural expectations of masculinity. Men should suppress their emotions and things like that, as well as DID is also frequently misdiagnosed, limiting access to specialized care. And then the social stigma creates a fear of being judged. So most people don't even want to go in the first place because they think admitting they have something like this is basically just either admitting they're weak or admitting they're some sort of freak to society. They don't fit in. It can be a scary thing. And then also oftentimes their alters, like Tyler, is actively resisting treatment or creating internal barriers to seeking this help that they need. So the broader film perspective overall is that the film accurately portrays identity switching and amnesia, but kind of omits the trauma, found in the typical case of DID. It does exaggerate the violence and presents an unrealistic kind of sudden integration at the end. So like it doesn't really accurately portray how violent these people are. And through portraying this violence, it actually kind of shapes the public's perception and reinforces these stereotypes about DID being a violent thing, that's bad to be around and can be very harmful, rather than like encouraging people to actually who have these symptoms to go and get the treatment they need. And then this is just my APA citation, so I appreciate you watching.